Hello there, welcome to another video on investing in stocks. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. Any questions, drop me a comment. So today we're talking about an aerospace and defense company, Lockheed Martin. You've probably heard about it, and if you haven't, you've probably heard about some of their products. This is a massive company, it's a US company. It's the third largest aerospace and defense company in the world after Boeing and Airbus. But Lockheed Martin is mostly military and defense. Boeing and Airbus are commercial. So this is pretty much the largest military company in the world. Now, before I get into the company and its operations and the whole business model, let's get to some of the key numbers. So Lockheed Martin is boasting 51 billion in revenue, large company, 95 billion in market cap. It was established 23 years ago, back in 1995, and as I said, it's the third largest aerospace and defense company in the world. Now, since then, for the last 23 years, its stock has gone up an average of 50% every year for 23 years. That's versus the 11% of the S&P 500. So it has been far outpacing the general market. Now the stock is currently trading at 25 PE, which is quite attractive in my opinion. It's paying 2.4% dividend. They have 5.3 billion in free cash flow and 483% return on equity. So this company is very good at putting money to use, and the dividend from Lockheed Martin, currently sitting at 2.4%, has been increased every year since 2003. So that's 15 years consecutively they've increased the dividend. So there's a good chance they will pretty much be increasing it forever. So Lockheed Martin makes their money from selling military equipment. Mainly aerospace, which makes up 17 billion, so that's fighter jets. Mission systems makes up 13 billion. Space products makes up 9 billion. And then missiles and missile defense systems coming in at 6.5. And they're selling these products to some of the biggest and most lucrative customers in the world. The most formidably being the US government and the United States Armed Forces, which are the two largest customers in the world, period. And so they have some very lucrative long-term contracts with these governments and governments all over the world. Most major air forces, be it in Europe, Asia or Americas, or even Africa, Middle East, are all pretty much customers of Lockheed Martin. And some of the customers are obvious, and some of those are like European Aviation, Royal Saudi Air Force, and then of course the United States Air Force. The unique thing about Lockheed Martin and a lot of these military and defense companies is that they have lucrative long-term contracts or projects with big governments. So this is very unique and different from all other companies, because governments are not only the largest customers, but they are the most stable and reliable, because Lockheed Martin gets paid out of all countries' defense budgets, which are guaranteed taxpayers' money being allocated to defense, and some of that defense budget goes to the Air Force, and the Air Force, most of them, buy planes or drones or missile systems from Lockheed Martin. So these are very stable, almost permanent contracts, as long as Lockheed Martin can keep doing a good job. So that makes this such a stable company, stable industry, and the cash flow is so predictable. And defense budgets, they keep increasing every year because they're usually allocated as a part of GDP. So some countries might say we're spending 2% of GDP on defense, we're spending 5%, and so on and so on. And as GDP grows, the defense budgets grows with it. And the revenue from Lockheed Martin grows very slowly. It hardly grows at all, but it's so stable and it has almost never gone down because defense spending is such a consistent expense paid by almost all countries. Now, if you haven't heard too much about the company, you might have heard it mentioned a couple of times. You've definitely heard about their flagship products. We're naming F-16, F-22 and F-35 fighters, GPS-3 satellites, air-to-air missiles, artillery rocket launchers, laser-guided missiles, as well as intercontinental ballistic missiles. These are just to mention a few, and these are very difficult. These are very high technology, difficult products to manufacture with big margins, and they cost hundreds of millions of dollars. So this is not a space where new competition pops up very often, and it's a very high barrier to entry, very difficult to get in. You need so much production facilities and very big contracts with governments. And these governments have a lot of rules in their contracts when they're buying intercontinental ballistic missiles. Not every company can make those. So they're in a very entrenched position, and I don't think Lockheed Martin fears too much competition besides the companies who are already in the game. Now, Lockheed Martin is also one of the most powerful companies in the US, period. Like it or not, they have very strong lobbying efforts, and they're a vital part of the military-industrial complex, which is a very powerful force in the world. And Lockheed Martin is very entrenched due to all their contracts and projects involving many countries across the world, hundreds of thousands of people, workers in whether it's manufacturing or research and development. So again, like it or not, lobbying and government relationships are more important in this industry than any other industry. So that's a unique feature about Lockheed Martin, which is why I like this industry, and especially Lockheed Martin. And it's also why I want to go with the top dog, the biggest company, because this is where size really matters. Some small upstart company can't just come in, make an app, and all of a sudden threaten Lockheed Martin. We're talking about many years of development. You need very high technology, high skilled workers. You need government relationships, lobbying efforts, big manufacturing plants. You're making missiles and fighter jets. So that's one of the reasons why I really feel safe putting my money in Lockheed Martin. Now, these are just some of the reasons why I like this company. It's one of my largest positions, and I'm thinking of adding to it because I really like aerospace in general. I think more and more of our transportation and military conflicts are going to take place in the aerospace, and maybe even in space, where Lockheed Martin is involved with NASA amongst others on very exciting space projects. And they're making $9 billion from space products. How many companies are doing that? So Lockheed Martin has its hands where you might not expect that they are. So there we go. As always, let me know what you think about the stock. Are you a fan of the industry? Have you got money in some other defense companies? Let me know. But as always, I'll see you guys in my next video. Have a great week.